Welcome everyone to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners policy session on this October 23, 2024. Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please take the roll?
Yes, Chair Smith. Roll call. Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here.
Commissioner West is on his way. We'll be here shortly.
Okay, thank you. What's up first, Gary?
First policy session today is County Parks Code Changes, Title VI of the County Code, Park Rules. Sarah Ekman, Assistant Director of Transportation and Development, is today's presenter. Go ahead, please, Sarah.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. We're here today to talk about changes to county code in regards to park rules. And as you can imagine, as our customers come and use our parks over time, we uncover areas where we need to potentially amend county code to provide safety for our customers and our staff, as well as other items. What's before you today, majority of them are minor revisions that were brought forward through a combination of county staff who are working our parks, the hearings officer who we work with on items, as well as our Parks Advisory Board. There are some more substantive changes which are mostly safety related. They're highlighted in your packet. Some of those items are expanding protections for park staff, which is around adding language about not harassing our staff, obstructing their work, those kinds of things. Clarifying rules for remote control devices. This is in regards to things like not flying drones in or above our parks. We've added some explicit language for park staff to be able to restrict fires when needed. So we had some guidelines around fires, but we didn't have explicit language that says we could restrict it on a case-by-case basis. For instance, if the fire marshal gives us a direct order to, not have fires due to fire conditions. We're also looking at granting authority to our parks manager to designate campsite capacity. And what we're looking to do with that is minimize some of the impact on our utility systems because we find that some of our campsites get overcapacity quite quickly and aren't quite equipped to handle it in the same way that other sites are. So what we're looking for is ability to provide a higher capacity at a larger site who's better equipped to handle a larger group versus a smaller, more primitive site where a smaller amount of people being present is more reasonable. That's a highlight of some of those pieces that are there. These revisions have been in front of our Parks Advisory Board. They've unanimously supported them on 2 occasions, both in February and then last week, where we had some final revisions. So they've reviewed those and recommended they come forward to you for review and consideration. So we have 3 options before you today. 1, to direct us to advance these changes as we propose them. You can give us more direction, or of course, direct us to not take action, and we would respectfully recommend number 1, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Does any commissioner have comments or questions regarding the revised park rules? Commissioner Scholl.
Good morning, Sarah.
Morning.
Now, there's a lot of detail in this. If a person wants to rent a campsite, do they get a copy of this? Now, how does it come to their attention, all these particular rules?
That's a great question. We don't, it's contained within the county code that's available online, and then we do have, when someone makes a reservation, there are rules specific to their experience that we do have them verify they understand.
Okay.
But we don't give them the entire section. We give them the pieces that we think are most
prioritized. Because there's a lot of things in here that restrict, in a good way, people's behavior in the parks. And so I'm just curious as to how they know what's expected of their behavior before they sign them.
Great. We do have staff that also educate them in the field. So if there's a question or an observation by a park employee of behavior that's not consistent with expectations, they'll have a conversation with them first.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sarah, will the new rules be posted at the parks? The new rules that are most impactful?
We can certainly do that, and we do a lot of it through the reservation system. And then we do have information boards throughout the parks. we'll go through the entire process of rolling these out. Once we will have to have the 2 hearings, and then we can certainly post those.
Well, I can foresee a situation where people make a reservation, they show up amount of time later, they come to the park, and there's a corrective behavior enforcement because this new rule, they said, well, I don't know about that new rule. You could say, well, it's posted at the entry gate at the park.
Absolutely, and we could put a QR code up too. So you have
As a
paper
park
version.
user, that's important. What, in number 1, under the executive summary, include vehicle conversions in the definition of camping shelter. What does that mean?
That is a great question. So historically, vehicles, recreational vehicles have been defined as those that are, purchased from a retailer specific for that purpose. And over time, and if I could pass these up, I have some great examples from our team. There are now a lot of people who make some very intentional conversions of their vehicles. So we don't want to allow or encourage people to come camp, say, and just throw down a foam pad in their minivan, for example, and consider that a recreational vehicle. But if they have a vehicle such as what you're seeing that is intentionally for the camping purpose, this would allow them to bring that into the park. Right now, this is not allowed. And so it allows.
That is not allowed?
Correct. So we have different rules. So this will allow people who've made an effort to do something to their vehicle that's explicitly for camping.
So what's wrong with throwing a foam pad in the back of your minivan and sleeping on there? Is there something wrong with that?
It's just the way our rules have been defined over time.
They are allowed to do that?
That they're not when it's in a recreational vehicle site. So you can do it in a site that allows for like tent camping, I believe. But the other, if it's designated for as an RV site, in those pieces.
Okay, all right, because people do that all the time. I have relatives that travel around in their minivan, and that's what they sleep in. I think there's nothing wrong with it, but you're saying that it needs to be in a designated site, not in a recreational vehicle site. Now, does that RV site have full hookups?
Our RV sites, I believe, I will double check on the, I think
If
that
they don't have full hookups, I don't understand why you would restrict it in the RV sites.
yeah, I believe we have everything except
Maybe somebody
sewer.
listening can enlighten me on that, and maybe I'm not understanding completely what this means on that. Is alcohol permitted in county parks?
No.
Well,
Well, I should say, I take that back. It's permitted if you're camping. It is not permitted in day use.
in day use, okay,
So
so
Barton, for example, with the
somebody
river
wants to come
floating.
spend a night, they can sit around the campfire and have a brewski, and that's okay.
Yes.
Okay,
for
that's good.
camping.
All righty. I think, Paul, you were up next.
Yeah, couple things that usually someone who's camped both ways with an RV and not, those with hookups, whether they're partial hookups or full hookups, those are usually, slightly more spacious, but, there's not a lot of them, sometimes enough of them, so you wouldn't want to have someone who is more of a tent camper using up an RV spot when there's limited, but it's a lot more flexibility with someone pitching a tent. And some of these pictures here are more along the lines of like, it's camping, it's not really an RV, right? RVs typically have, some kind of form of heat, plumbing, those kinds of things that, a tent does not have. The other thing too about the changes, while I understand it, I think we all kind of learned that the rules change and we never have much to say about it, whether it's our personal devices or a particular provider. We're always updating the rules and we're hitting I approve the changes. Not our DMV, but the vehicle code changes all the time. We don't know that. We learn the hard way, and maybe we get a warning, and the warning's the education piece. It might be a little bit easier just to say what the changes are, but sometimes people don't even know what they are, what the base is. Even when things have not changed, they don't know the rules. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to have that on hand and at least have a posting perhaps on our website of the changes so that people can at least learn that. But I'm okay with the proposed revisions.
Commissioner West?
Just back on this camping thing, camp a lot, have a trailer, have done both. Is there a cost difference for an RV site versus a tent site?
Yes.
Okay, so if someone has this car and they pay for the RV site, who cares? So why would we put a restriction why is it necessary? So if I turn around and say, yeah, I don't need these RV hookups, or I even use my RV and don't even use the hookups, that happens too. Or I just want to have my tent there, but I paid the fee for that site, why should I be restricted if I'm camping? Why?
I want to be sure I get you the best answer, and if I could go back and get that answer from our experts, because historically, I know some of the things have been defined through how, we work within the statewide system. So I want to be sure I give you some accuracy there, and
So before we had an RV, we would often use an RV site at a state park, like at Honeyman or whatever, because they're sometimes bigger and you have more versatility within that individual site, or you understand the campground and you just like that specific space and you are buying the space. Once you buy the space, as long as you're legally camping, I don't care how you camp. I mean, that's just not. I don't want to overregulate people's recreation. Why don't we have alcohol usage in day sites? So if somebody rents a space and maybe they're doing a company party or whatever, they can't do no alcohol use in day sites.
I believe that there's.
Is that kind of standard through park systems or?
I believe they can with a special permit. I don't know. I was in text you, Gary. I do have our parks manager available via Zoom if you'd like to get more specificity, or not at the moment. Okay, so I can get you the follow-up on the
Perfect, that's
sites. Yes, we did have a very intentional effort several years ago to ban alcohol in the day use portion, outside of those contexts where you have perhaps a special permit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's my questions.
I do think that is true. Being at Carver Park many years ago, I was at a function, and they had alcohol, and they said, you need to stay within this area to drink it. Didn't affect me any. I wasn't wandering off or drinking or anything, but I remember that. Larger capacity, you said that you're increasing the capacity at certain sites, is that right?
There would be some that would increase. We have, for example, a particular site at Metzler Park that's very large, and it would have a higher capacity than some other sites. Other sites, we do want to reduce capacity probably by 2 people. It's consistent with our counterparts, and we're finding that our utility systems in that particular part, for example, of Barton Park, are a bit overtaxed.
Do you restrict the amount of cars that are parked in a site?
We do.
To what?
We do. That's a great question.
Because sometimes families will,
2
Rent.
cars.
2 cars, so a family rents, let's say one of the larger RV sites, and there's more cars there, so do you have overflow parking?
We do have overflow parking at our camping parks, yes. That is fairly convenient for people to be able to add.
In all of our county parks, we have overflow parking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All righty. So Sarah, if you could just get back with some of those answers that may not be too definitive on here. Commissioners, is there any other comments or questions? I believe we need to entertain a motion. Listed on page 2, there is a recommendation.
Yeah, Chair, I move to direct staff, option 1, direct staff to advance proposed changes to the Clackamas County Code, Title 6, Park Rules, through the formal approval process to include 2 public hearings at least 13 days apart, with approval at the second hearing and county code changes taking effect 90 days after final approval.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved, we direct staff to advance proposed changes to the Clackamas County Code, Title 6, Park Rules through the formal approval process to include 2 public hearings at least 13 days apart, with approval of the second hearing and county code changes taking effect 90 days after final approval. And Commissioner Scholl has seconded the motion. Any further discussion?
Yes, Chair, I just would like to thank the Parks Advisory Board and everybody who worked on this. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of thought and concern and care went into this because we hear from the public quite a bit on this. Thank you. Would the clerk please take the poll?
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Well done.
So we will get those answers to the board before we schedule the first public hearing to make sure they're okay. All right. Thank you, Sarah. Next, Chair and Board, is approval of the 2024 Providence Plan documents and 2025 non-represented cost share benefit arrangements for county employees. Human Resources will present. Evelyn Minor Lawrence, Director of Human Resources, please come forward, and Heather Pedersen, Deputy Director of Human Resources.
Good morning.
Good morning
Chair
and
Smith
welcome.
and Commissioners.
Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Evelyn Minor Lawrence, HR Director, and I have with me here Heather Pedersen, the Deputy Director of HR.
Morning.
Morning.
So again, we are here to seek the board's approval on 3 items. One is the 2024 Providence Administrative Service Agreement, and this is a contract that we have with Providence that has been reviewed by County Council. The second is the 2024 Providence Summary Plan Description for each of those, and I'll go through our plans, groups. And then third, 2025 non-rep cost sharing agreements. So I will cover the first 2 items, and then Heather will take item number 3, which is the non-rep cost sharing agreements. So I'll start with, again, the Providence Administrative Service Agreement. This is a contract that we have with Providence, and we pay Providence a fee to do our claims administration, given that we are self-insured. Providence, the work that they're providing for us as a self-insured employer, this includes our claim administrations, network administration work, disease management, and et cetera. That work roughly is about $1 million, which breaks out to about $59.76 per employee at Clackamas County. Again, the board is asking, or the HR staff is asking that the board approve the administrative service agreement for 2024 and moving forward for a future meeting to adopt.
Is that the first item of consideration today, Gary?
That's what I have.
Yes, yes.
And that's a separate motion?
You'll have three separate items today, 3 separate motions, yes.
Just a moment, please. Okay, got it. On page 3, under the recommendations, there are 3 items listed for commissioners. Commissioner West.
I'm not sure if this is, I will retract my question if it's not totally appropriate at this point. I just am now seeing some answers or some thoughts regarding, Gary, the original questions I had around preventative care that the county, I believe, should offer it to help prevent things like advanced cardiovascular disease, our employees needing to have their chest cracked open, because we can do a lot of things preventively than some things that aren't necessarily offered by insurance that I think in the long run will be less impactful on the system. I don't know if this is where I bring some of those questions up.
Not on this one.
So this is about the Benefits Review Committee. Heather and Evelyn, we've talked about that. Is this the time to discuss that, or is that a separate decision that comes to the board later?
I think that that's a separate
thing.
decision.
Then I'll just hold that, but I just am still have quite a few thoughts around like what we're covering within our package also.
Yes.
I know it does impact the overall bottom line when we talk about those things, but my questions right now are around that.
Good. Yeah, I appreciate that. Commissioner Scholl.
Okay,
Yes, good morning,
good
ladies.
morning.
Evelyn, the Providence Administrative Services Agreement that you just spoke about,
Yes.
what is the % increase of the new agreement over last year? And how do you negotiate to arrive at that new % increase?
That's an excellent question, and I have with me, if I have permission, Cynthia Kodowski, who is our interim benefits manager, so I'm hoping that Cynthia might be able to answer that question.
Cynthia, can you come forward, please? Yeah, bring up a chair, and you guys just park yourself here for a while. We'll probably have some questions.
Yeah.
You can,
We're all new at benefits, so we said.
Sure.
Yeah.
please introduce yourself.
I'm Cynthia Kadachi, I'm the Interim Benefits Manager for Clackamas County.
Okay, did you understand the question?
Yes,
Would you like to take an answer?
sure. I don't have the actual percentage increase with me. I didn't bring that with me, but I can get that and provide it to you.
Okay.
But the other part of your question was, how do we determine?
Yes.
So-
What negotiation process do you go through to come up with the recommendation that you presented today?
Sure. We have a broker, Mercer, that works with us on an annual basis for our renewal. And if we were wanting to consider having a different provider, then we would do an RFP, a request for proposal. And, but we would look at that with a broad spectrum, because if we were to change our provider for our self-insured plan, then it would actually have an impact on our employees because of the network that's associated with that plan. So if we were looking to change who does our administration, it could have an impact on the network that we use. So we'd
Okay.
want to make sure that it's not going to adversely impact our employees.
Okay. And then this new agreement applies the same to all of our employees who are associated with the 4 different unions that the county
Yes.
is?
Yes.
Okay. And then, last question. What, has this been presented to our employees? Is there a consensus of agreement on this? In other words, do most of the 2,400 employees think that this is a good agreement?
Yes, we have a high satisfaction with our Providence plan.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, unrelated to this, but I just wanted to build on a future conversation or work session related to, not related directly to what Commissioner West was bringing up, but non-represented. But I want to just clarify that I'd like to have a conversation in the future for us to better understand, because I don't fully understand. I think staff has helped significantly in my understanding of the non-represented folks that are also part-time and then are also permanent part-time. And then there's also the temporary workers. And so I kind of want to get a better understanding of the benefits. And it seems to me, I just want to make sure that my concern is that the more permanent part-time workers who are unable to work full-time but are committed to working in Clackamas County, or maybe there's a position that doesn't, or their position that their expertise is at does not have a full-time position, that they have, somewhat reasonable benefits. And I'd like to understand what those are and are not. So that's for a future conversation. I'm okay. I'm prepared to make a motion,
Yeah,
at
we're
least on this
just-
first step.
That's fine, because we're doing the administrative services agreement right now, and then we have 2 other areas to discuss where, commissioners, your questions might be more apropos. Commissioner Savas, go ahead with your motion.
I just lost where the motion was.
That's okay, they're on 3, page 3, recommendations.
Okay, so there we go. I move for option 1, approve the 2024 Providence Administrative Services Agreement and move forward with formal adoption at a future business meeting.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved we approve the 2024 Providence Administrative Services Agreement and move forward for formal adoption at a future business meeting, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded that. What is absent from your presentation is how much this increased over last year.
Okay.
Okay, and I have a feeling on the next 2 options, you're going to run into the same questions I know from me.
Okay.
And before we take the vote, I need to say this. You have worked with this Board of Commissioners enough in negotiations to know what we are saying, and this presentation, in my opinion, does not answer those questions. And this is the platform to answer those questions.
Okay.
Commissioner West?
What is when we do these agreements and when we go enter into these relationships, what is the process in which we look at options in the marketplace and see what other competitors may offer Clackamas County? What does that process look like before we do this agreement? How often do we look at these agreements? Because I've never I've never done this before as a commissioner or a previous elected position, so I'm just curious about that.
I think I'll have Cynthia kind of reiterate what she just explained, how we work with with Mercer. So you want to explain there?
So Mercer, is Mercer like a broker?
Mercer is our broker.
Yes.
So Mercer's a broker.
Yes.
I'm just going to go down to the second grade level here.
Mm-hmm.
Mercer's a broker. They have a number of entities within their umbrella that they work with.
Correct.
Are they always shopping? Is it like an every 3-year shopping? Would they say, hey, this year you have Providence, but next year we think that Blue Cross Blue Shield is a better, is a really an option you should look at? Or do we do like a bidding process with Mercer? For different providers?
We also do an RFP, a request for proposal if we were to change our broker too. So we're also looking at our broker on an ongoing basis.
So Mercer's the broker, but do they select who we are going to utilize for insurance, or does that an RFP process also through Mercer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I wrong or?
No, you're correct. So, if we were to be not satisfied with Providence, be it based on the providers panel they have or the rates, we could choose to, go out to the market and look at others, like you said, Blue Cross, with legacy-based
I'm not
plan.
suggesting that. That's just an example.
No,
Yeah.
just as an example.
Yeah.
But in doing so, that would impact our employees because these are panels, the doctor panels. And so if we were to do that, we would also work with Mercer to make sure if we were to choose a different provider, how does that impact our employees? So they would look at the doctors that our employees are using compared to the new panel, how much of an upset that would create. And sometimes we have to put that into the equation also. It's not just always what, the bottom dollar is. We want to make sure that we're providing the best care for our employees too. And so we want to make sure that the networks can support our employees. Do they have enough doctors for our employees to utilize? Are the services in the area that our employees are at? So they look at, the whole piece.
So Mercer, sorry, I think I almost have it. So Mercer's the broker. They're also an advisor. They walk us through this process. Then we do an RFP process for
If we have to
for
change.
different
We have to
providers
If we're
through
changing.
Mercer?
Yeah, if
Yeah.
we're changing.
If we're changing it,
Yeah,
okay.
so we get ongoing reports from Mercer on our utilization. So we are aware of what's happening throughout the year
Got it,
with our
okay.
claims. And so if we see that there's, a large change, Mercer on our behalf is going to go to the Providence and find out what's going on. Why are our claims increasing? Why, or, what is our utilization? And they negotiate for us.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense to me.
And I want to stress, too, that the decisions that are being made for Clackamas County, those are not being made in a vacuum with just Mercer. They're working in partnership
Okay.
with our benefits team, and in this case, the benefits manager.
Okay.
Right.
Got
Okay,
it.
cool. Thank you. That's good information to understand how it works structurally. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, would the clerk please take the poll?
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savis,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. What's next?
Okay, I'm going to now move down to number 2, which is the Providence summary plan descriptions for each of the plans. So in looking at that, again, the Providence plan description, this is where the BRC's work takes place. So what we're sharing with you, the results of the work that the BRC, which is our Benefits Review Committee. So for the 2025 plan changes, we're going to be looking and discussing with you both the general county plan, and that plan includes both the non-rep and the represented employees. Then there is a separate plan that POA has. So I'll walk through first the general county plan. So Providence had an increase of 2.4%. And the BRC accepted that increase, so there was no plan change design. Kaiser, however, they came in with an increase of 13.7%. The BRC did not accept that increase or tried to do better. And so as a result, through their work, they were able to make some changes in the Kaiser plan design to reduce that 13% increase that Kaiser had imposed on us to 9.2%.
Was there program changes in Kaiser to make the rates go up?
To the 13.7 to make that go up?
Okay, you negotiated a 9.2 rate increase for Kaiser. What was the justification for the rate increase? Was there program changes?
There were a number of things. Kaiser had, if you've been following the media, Kaiser's had some challenges this past year. Their operational costs went up. As you know, Kaiser had almost went into a strike. So that impacts, the changes there. Medical, there are a number of things that go into calculating operational costs. But yes, there were operational costs that contribute to that increase of 13.7%. Do you want to talk more specifically
And also
about?
utilization. It's
Would
based
you
on
pull the
utiliz-
microphone
Oh, I'm sorry.
closer? Thank you.
Okay, sorry. It's also based on utilization.
Ah,
So we had higher claims.
at Kaiser? Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting, okay. Makes sense. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, this is very interesting.
Yes.
Do you ever feel like your job is kind of humdrum and, a lot of figures but anyway, this morning I find it quite interesting. On the Kaiser plan, I note that the deductible has gone up considerably. Is that not correct?
Is that for the POA plan or the general county you're referring to?
General county employees. Okay, general county employees. Okay, it's gone up, the deductible has gone up quite a bit. And then the out-of-pocket maximum also has gone up over 75%. Is that something we should be concerned about? Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the Benefits Review Committee is the one that makes that decision. And so they decided to make those changes so that they could reduce the overall impact that the cost to the employees.
That's overall, okay. But overall,
The-
countywide, 2,400 plus employees, but potentially, if somebody has a medical issue, it's going to be more expensive for the individual. Is that not correct?
They'll have a higher deductible and out-of-pocket, correct?
Okay, is that something the board should be concerned about?
Well, I mean, it is a decision that's made by the Benefits Review Committee, and that they are representing the employees, and they go back to their employees, and they share this information and make that decision, and then it's voted upon by the Benefits Review Committee.
But can I answer?
go ahead.
Yes, please.
If the question is around, should we, about the increase of medical costs in general, that is something that everyone is looking at, because medical costs and it's not staying flat. It is constantly going up, and there are many outside influences that influence our medical costs. Again, it depends on the experience that the county is having as an employer with these plans. So the more our employees, the more serious medical conditions they have for themselves or for their families, that impacts it. So medical costs as well as drugs and prescriptions, those are going up. And we're constantly having to look at the benefits that we're providing our employees, both on the medical and dental area. So yes, this is something that, we have to constantly watch, because the market itself is changing.
Okay.
I hope that
Okay,
answers
well,
your question.
And we also look we do benchmarking to see how we compare to others like us and to make sure that our plans are in line too for our employees.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner West?
So we see an increase of still, nine's significant. Nine's not a small amount. That's a significant increase. And along with it, a significant increase on out-of-pocket expenses, all for our employees to pay. This seems to be with Kaiser. How many of our employees utilize Kaiser over Providence?
I was going to ask that question, thank you.
This may impact their choice.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, we have approximately 1,400 employees covered by Providence, and I believe we have 600, between 600 to 700 covered by Kaiser.
So a fair amount still. Is this uniquely, are we seeing this across the marketplace, or is this uniquely a situation that we have going on? I'm a little concerned with, this is not a small increase. This isn't incremental. This is, for some, maybe a surprise. Our FSA won't cover these out-of-pocket expenses for some people, but you can do annually, right? When you try to supplement with your FSA, because you have other expenses like out-of-pocket for dental, maybe your kid's gonna get braces, maybe you know you have an upcoming surgery, you're gonna have a significant out-of-pocket cost now on top of our supplemental things that we offer people to help manage these things. We're not there now. Now people are going into the red. I'm concerned by that. And I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, or this is what y'all decided and we're basically rubber stamping something, but I'm concerned about the increase of the cost to work these working families in our organization. And how we're gonna try to mitigate that. Maybe we start looking at HSA because there's more flexibility with that versus an FSA. What are we doing to try to help mitigate that cost for employees? I don't know if we have an answer today, but this is a big jump.
Gary's going to answer, thank you.
34 years ago, the Board of County Commissioners delegated all of this to a benefits review committee. Right or wrong, they make the decision, not you. But you have to bless it. So yes, you are a rubber stamp on this process.
Well, I don't know why we're doing I don't have any more questions then, if that's all my role is.
I'm sorry, that's it. I mean, really, the board, you should consider changing this delegation so it comes back to the board. You can't do that today or overnight.
Yeah.
That really is a solution. You reverse that delegation so that it's your decision, not this committee's.
I do think it's important that we bring up the items that are of concern to us, Commissioner West, and I appreciate that. Keep doing that.
Well, I have these concerns, and I guess I will either vote yes or no on those. I might vote no because I don't appreciate these increased costs, and I don't have an explanation of how we're mitigating it, regardless of what they said. You know, we are the stewards of the pocketbooks of this county, and how this impacts everybody. So that's where I'm at.
So a rhetorical question here regarding Commissioner West. What would be the alternative to the increased out-of-pocket and higher deductible? What is the alternative to that? Just,
You mean to make the rates go down? Well, it's based a lot on utilization. So if we have less utilization, our rates will go down.
okay. So next year, we could see a change.
Correct.
We could.
We've
Okay.
had good years and bad years.
We could.
All right, let's say that the KP group, for instance, had medical procedures that cost a lot of money. You know, we know what those are. I'm not going to single out any particular medical situation.
Right.
Those cost money.
Right.
And then next year, it could be Providence that has the hit on that.
Right.
And then the KP goes down.
And those are all, again, those are all outside influences that we don't have control over. And it does fluctuate from year to year, and it depends on the experience of our workforce. I do agree that we need to have more of a strategic discussion around our benefits. But again, as our county administrator has shared, there was a documentation, an agreement that was put in place, and that is something that we need to have further discussion with the board as to where you would like us to go in providing direction going forward. But today, we are actually asking you to approve work that has already been sanctioned by the Benefits Review Committee, who does have the authority to make those decisions about our plan design.
I think this gets back to the overall question I've been harping about for a couple months, is that I don't think our plan does enough for preventative care, period. And if you want to reduce these costs and we can control that, then we have to be much more serious about not disease management, as somebody's already in advanced chronic disorders, and that trajectory is just downward spiraling with expenses. But we are really, really bad, not only in this country, but I think in this county, about doing the things necessary to prevent the severe disease from happening in the first place, which is wildly expensive, and some of that utilization goes up. That's just the truth, and I think that this is maybe indicative of that. I'm voting on something, and the core issue that I've been trying to talk about around these issues, and I've been sending emails, is about disease management. And here I am voting on something that's more expensive potentially because we don't do that well enough. That's kind of my concern too. If that's what we can control, are we being serious about the things that we are willing to cover if it's a little more expensive up front, but in the long run it drops these costs? I think we haven't done that yet.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, my last question has to do with Commissioner West's question, and that is, does Clackamas County have a healthy lifestyle program or education program that promotes good health through exercise, proper diet, regular checkups to ensure, blood chemistry is good, and et cetera, et cetera? Do we have that?
We do have a wellness program.
Yeah, okay.
And we are in the process now of evaluating the effectiveness of our current wellness program. It is our intention to revamp that. Hopefully under Cynthia's leadership and Heather and I, that is something that we are looking at, because everything that you've shared, again, as Commissioner West pointed out, prevention is where we should be putting some of our efforts to reduce some of this. And so we may be able to get some traction through our wellness program, but we do need to, again, have do a deeper dive at looking at the services that we can offer through our wellness program so that we can help influence some of these costs. We are going to be working very closely with Mercer this coming year to address the very questions that you've brought up this morning.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Schrader.
Just some institutional memory, I do recall us having wellness opportunities. We would have days where people could drop in and out all day with various providers, and opportunities to learn about, how for self-care and all that. So is that, and we haven't done it for quite a while. So why is that? Just out of curiosity.
We've had, in full transparency, we've had a lot of change in staff.
Okay.
And this area hasn't gotten the attention that I would like. But it's been due to resources, staffing. That's been the bottom line.
Thank you for that.
You're
yeah.
welcome.
And it's really up to the employee to understand and reach out and learn about the wellness programs. I viewed them a year ago, and it seems to me there's quite a few of them, but we have to be willing in our own selves to value preventative care for ourselves moving forward. And maybe that's where our awareness is lacking. We're still coming out of COVID in some ways. Some employees are still, working part-time at home, part-time here, which, whatever you think of that, it's a reality. And then everybody's pressed to do their jobs. Everything's in a hurry. And, 5 or 10 minutes of meditation a day goes a long ways. And I know one department over there, they get up and 5 minutes out of the day, they get up and jump around and do jumping jacks. I mean, that's a big deal. It resets your brain, it gets you in tune with stuff, just little things like that. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, well, I don't have from a year standpoint, have the institutional knowledge that Commissioner Schrader has, but I've been around for the last 14 years, but you go back a couple of years, prior, yeah, so. But I do recall these conversations happening. I do recall the period of time in which we had deeper and more frequent work sessions on a number of things, this being one of them. Part of me actually appreciates the fact that we've got the model we have because it's so detail-oriented. It's hard for us to make decisions on their behalf, and so I see some value in it. I do see the financial in the packet, the financial, summaries, if you will, the impacts to all this for all three combined. I get that, but, my memory is, or my knowledge, could be wrong, could have changed, was that Kaiser is more of a, by its nature, more of a preventative model, right? But it's sometimes hard to correlate whether, without doing a deep dive, whether or not, your risk or your exposure, that have resulted in an increase are because of, or not, whether or not enough preventative practices were in place, or whether or not you just had a bad year where people might be predisposed to a particular ailment. So I don't know if we really know that this is because of a lack of preventative or not, but that's Kaiser's model more so than it's Providence's model, as I understand it. So it's hard for me to know without having directing staff to say, go look at it and find out, this just a bad year for cases, or is this because, or is it COVID? Who knows? I don't know. But it is interesting that Providence is not experiencing that and Kaiser is, and I just don't know if it's the makeup. Hard to say, but I think those concerns are valid, but I wouldn't draw a conclusion that it's because there's been a drop-off of focus on preventative care or not. You don't have the details to really determine that here today, correct? Whether that's really the case?
I don't think so.
Right,
No.
right. As I read the packet.
Correct. Okay, Commissioner West?
So I'm super disappointed. We're here today, and I made pretty simple, basic, pokes at this and suggestions. It was brought before this BRC committee. I guess just finding out they weren't interested in my suggestions to change kind of how we look at preventative care. It's much more than just going to the gym or eating more vegetables, okay? It's more than that. And there are really cutting-edge medicine and things that are happening that really help people prevent things like triple bypasses, prevent things like diabetes. And there's a lot of good science and medicine coming out around this, and there's really is a push to try to do this. I'm not voting for this today because we haven't been serious about a conversation. I was placated. My questions weren't taken seriously. I found out through a vague email what just we did or did not cover. I could have called the insurance companies myself for that answer. And I'm not a guy off the street that doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about. This is what I do. This is my profession. This is what my advanced degree is in. This is the people I care for. I know what I'm talking about. And so I just think that this misses the mark around prevention. I think we have to finally get serious about it. We're not. And our costs are more expensive, and that is a contributor to it. Until we principally get more serious about prevention in medicine and a different type of healthcare system, I'm not supporting it. So I'll be of a no vote on this. I think we need to have a larger conversation about additional oversight about how this BRC, who they are and how they operate, and what type of professional interests are advising them. I'm not supporting this because I don't think it's good for the county. I don't think it's good for the staff, and maybe the BRC does, but I disagree with them. I'm a no.
Thank you for that, Commissioner West. I would like to know from here up to the next year when we're back here, or half year, how commissioners' concerns can get to the BRC for real consideration. Gary?
So Commissioner West's feedback was shared with the committee. It was not ignored. It was shared with the committee twice. And I don't attend those meetings. I don't know if they're open to the public, but the committee said no. And again, a prior board delegated authority to this committee. So I think the real solution is change the authority of this committee.
All right. And we might consider that going forward, to have a commissioner sit on this committee to be in the meetings. Now, how were Commissioners West's recommendations? Was it an email? Was he able to sit down and personally make his case?
No, I got a vague email that basically just told me what we do and do not cover, and I asked multiple times how this was going for the last few months on just a couple basic suggestions.
So that's disrespectful. BRC, I hope you're listening. That is disrespectful to the people who you're asking to rubber stamp your recommendations. We are the governing body of this entire county. We are the governing body of everything. And to disregard very good recommendations, and I know what some of them are, could be life-saving, could save a single event $200,000. I don't like that any more than Commissioner West does. Gary, going forward, we're going to have to do some policy planning on this, and we may have to change the makeup of the BRC in order to get heard. You know, we have a lot of time today. I'm going to tell a little story about when I was in the Oregon legislature. You know, we've had several doctors, not many come through the Oregon legislature. The most notable was our governor, Dr. John Kitzhaber. He came out of the emergency room and he had a different perspective. But a senator whom you don't know about from Klamath Falls or Grants Pass, Dr. Alan Bates.
Yep, he was a good friend.
He was a very good friend of mine.
Good friend of mine, too.
And I served with him, and I wrote legislation with him. And he was similar to Commissioner West. Body, you're not paying attention. You're approving this, you're not paying attention, and we're not writing good public policy around health. And he really educated me, and he felt that he was not listened to, He happened to be in the opposite party of me, and he got in an entanglement with our Speaker of the House, and she killed his bill. And it was a good bill. And he came to me with hat in hand. He says, Tootie, the Speaker of the House killed the bill. I'm willing to strip my name off of it and you put your name on it, and I'm pretty sure it'll pass. Same bill. And I did it. And it passed. I hope we don't get so petty at this county that we have to take maneuvers like that to move forward. Unfortunately, this man died. He was awful. He also offered, we had really intense sessions back in the day, and we went for months and months and months, and we were there for 12 and 14 hours. Literally, on the floor of the House chamber, people would pass out, and he would have to give them medical care. That's how stressful that job was at times. And he was our doctor before the ambulance could get there. I don't know if you remember that or not. But this is the point. I don't know who the makeup of the BRC is. I hope there's some medical people on there. I just don't know. I feel like, you know, it's Dr. Oz behind the curtain, the great Oz pulling the lever, and we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And, you know, that's just not good transparency. So we're going to have to make some changes in this, Gary, going forward. I think this is a major consideration of policy going forward. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, okay, so the board just a few minutes ago approved the Providence Administrative Services Agreement. My question is, should we not, I don't know what the vote is going to be, but should we not approve the summary plan description? When does this need to go into effect?
So you do need to approve, and we're asking that you approve the summary plan description because it's already been in effect. This is for 2024.
Right, so it's been in effect since?
How long has it been in effect, Cynthia?
January 1
January 1.
of 2024.
Is there a deadline?
Okay, so, yeah, so I'm concerned about what's the deadline, and another, because this is the first time I think that I've seen this as a commissioner. So, may I ask why we don't do this earlier in the year? I mean, are we going to have to do this again on January, or when does this come up?
So we anticipated that this would be a question because I've asked the same questions myself in
Okay.
preparing for this.
Yeah.
And so I'll have Cynthia talk and give you a little bit about the history of why it's just getting here.
Yeah.
And again, I think some of that is influenced by the committee coming together. The committee is comprised of employees. They're represented employees. We do have some non-rep on the committee. There are our union leadership is on the committee. A lot of it is getting the committee together and to vote on this, and so there are a number of things. I agree that.
Okay.
So I agree that we need to look at repositioning when we bring this, this material to you. You know, now we're bringing everything for you to consider, and there are things that you are considering for 2024 that happened earlier on in this year, and you're just seeing it. We're just finishing up the work with POA, for an example. So we had to wait for that committee because there's two committees. There's a general county committee that the BRC, and that consists of represented employees from different groups within the county. And then there's non-reps on that general population group. Then there is a separate committee for POA that also reviews their benefits plans. And so Cynthia and Heather and I are looking at how do we strategically get our arms around this, and when should we be bringing things to the board so we're not having to look at two different time frames, because we're looking at a time frame. Today, you're looking at a time frame 2024. And so we're almost done with 2024. And so these are, we're asking you to make a decision on activities that have already been in play.
Right.
Why is that, Evelyn?
So,
That's.
Why is that? Why is this before the board in October when it went into effect 10 months ago? Could you please answer that?
that's what I'm trying to
That's
get
what
at.
I don't really know. There's been a change in our leadership over benefits, and I don't really have the
Okay.
answer.
Yeah, I understand.
So-
I understand it. I understand your answer. So, but it's this. What I feel like is, it's like the guy whose wife comes home and says, "Do you like this new designer dress I just bought for $4,000? Can I buy it?" Okay. So we're in October, and these numbers add up to about $52 million total. So, 10, 12, so that has been spent already, and so that's why I feel a little bit uncomfortable about this process. So we'll have to look at it.
No, I understand.
But finally, one more time, just to make sure I understand, you need an approval from the board on this ASAP.
No, not
correct?
ASAP,
Well, no,
Commissioner.
I'm asking, how much time before we run into a problem if it's not approved today or in the near future?
On the 2024 plan, we need that approved right away because that's already in effect.
Yeah,
And so we're coming to the end of
Yeah.
2024, and now
Yeah.
we're moving into 2025.
yeah, okay, so maybe we can spend some time in the next few months to kind of look at our process for next year. All right,
Cynthia, can you
thank you.
shed some light on that?
The documents that we're asking you to approve, the 2024 ones,
Yeah.
those would have been discussed with you last year based on the BRC's recommendations. Just like we're telling you what the BRC is doing for 2025 with the changes to the co-pays and co-insurance and deductibles, that will be effective 1/1/2025. Those documents are currently being created. We will have those to you probably first quarter 2025, and then we would begin coming back to you early 2025 and asking for you to approve those documents. So the 2024 ones should have been discussed with you back, I think it was December 9th is when I think she discussed them with you.
Okay, I personally don't recall it, but
Yeah,
thank you very much.
I wasn't here, so I don't know.
Okay,
but-
so my understanding of this, we have a couple weeks. before we have to give our final approval. November 1st is what my information is. Is that wrong or right? Because you've listed a bunch of numbers here. On page 2. Medical, vision, dental, opt-out cashback, group term, disability, Navia FSA administration, there's either a typo in that, it says 44,90.00. Is that 4,490 or is that 44,090?
It's, let me see if I have it right here. Just a second.
We'll check.
I'm on page 2 of the packet. Financial implications, the very last number, Navia FSA admin, is the number 4,490 or 44,000?
She's checking her.
Okay,
her
while
document.
you're checking on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I brought it, but let me just double.
All right. So while she's checking on this, you know, like Commissioner Scholl, I added up, it was around 51 million and change.
Correct.
Well, am I right in saying, quoting somebody, that last year's benefit package was 43 million? And this year it's over 51 million? And what is the percent change? And we should know in this packet of information what the percent change has been year over year. That's the type of information that this board always asks for. And both of you know that, being in labor negotiations. Today would have been a beautiful opportunity to present that to us. I'm inclined not to move this forward today and come back next week and try to answer some of the really good questions we've had here today.
Okay. Can you,
But I want you to continue on the presentation in case any more questions come up.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on the number because I did not include it in my packet, I'm sorry. But as for the other numbers, this is based on the changes that the BRC are implementing as of 1/1/2025.
And I know it's not displayed in a way that is clear, so I do apologize for that.
That's okay, just bring it back next week and now that you know what we want.
Yep. I would say, it notes the increases over 2024 on page 2. You're correct, it's just over 51 million for 2025. And then for the medical, dental, and the opt-out cashback, those increases are noted there over 2024. So I did the math, and my hand scratch here. So 2024's cost was 50,888,000, and I understand it's not in a table format that makes that very clear.
And we don't know the percentage change of that yet.
Nope, but I can do that math
You
as
can
well.
do that, not today. Okay. Not today on that.
okay,
Because numbers are very important in this.
sure.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, so under the 3 different groups here, the percentage changes in the packet displayed are not applicable to the questions being asked. Because it says there, Kaiser initially,
should be.
proposed 13.7.
No.
Through the work, it was reduced to 9.2. And the Providence moved 2.4. So the numbers they're asking for percentage-wise are different numbers?
No.
Well, I think
Or is it the collective
it's
overall?
the collective.
It's the collective?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what the chair would like is to see the overall collective increase
Yes,
from year over year.
So if I read this correct, just following through with that, on the non-represented, there's no percentages in there, so that didn't move, essentially. Is that what I'm seeing?
The non-reps are on the same general county plan
Okay.
as the represented employees.
So it's fair to say, if I'm looking at this, just averaging the numbers, and I'm just averaging, that it looks like those percentages between the general county and the peace officers are kind of close to some degree. At least the reductions, was reduced to 9.1% and 9.2%. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that's pretty close. So the collective will be pretty close to that as well, right? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm interested in the collective. I understand each plan's incremental increase. But the overall number, if indeed it's 43 million, I don't know it is, I thought I heard that. Now it's 51 million and change, or 50 million, whatever.
51.8.
51.8, thank you. I'd like to know that number. So with that in mind, are we considering the Providence, okay, did we fully review the Providence summary plan description? Did we, on item 2, did you fully present the Providence summary plan?
I think we did. I think we
Okay.
jumped around in, but we
We're not
did.
going to take a vote on that now. We're going to move down to item 3.
Okay,
On the existing non-rep. Go ahead.
that's the cost sharing. That's Heather.
Right, and this is for 2025.
Okay,
So this decision is, we're seeking the board's approval to maintain the existing cost share agreement for non-represented employees. So currently, all of the collective bargaining units, the county pays for 95% of the premiums, and the employees cover 5% of the premiums, and that's noted in their collective bargaining agreements. Historically, the non-represented group has been treated similarly, with the county covering 95% of the premiums and the employee paying for the 5% of the premiums. And so, in doing that, it maintains parity between the non-reps and the represented groups, and that equity, similar to the COLA situation, where COLAs are outlined in the CBAs, but not, since non-represented employees don't have CBAs, we've just tried to be consistent. And so we're looking for your approval to
Keep it the same.
keep it the same or not, but it would be our recommendation to maintain that 95.5 for 2025.
So the 95%, 5%. So we cover 95% regardless of the increases.
That is correct.
95% is an increase year over year. Do we know what that increase is? I want that number too, and it may be the same as the other, but I'm not sure. Because regardless of what happens in the free market or the medical market or whatever at either Kaiser or Providence, those premiums go up every year. But your number, represented number, is the same, but it's not the same. Percentages don't tell me anything in this particular,
Got it.
okay? Because at 95% coverage, we are basically covering the increase, and the employees cover only 5% of the increase. Okay? So is that number possible? Gary, you know what I'm asking?
I
Is
do,
that-
yep.
Yeah.
Is that possible, Cynthia, to get that?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I can get that.
Okay.
There is a difference there is a difference between the represented group and the non-represented group in the sense of how the benefits are costed out to them. On the represented group, it's based on a composite rate, whereas with the non-rep employees, they pay on a tiered rate.
Okay, can you present that next week? Can you
Yes.
make that clear to us with sheets? And can we get those possibly a day ahead of time so we can mull them over and in my limited brain capacity for this? Thank you very much. Commissioner West?
Maybe I didn't have my coffee yet, but now I just feel grumpy. How much of today is just a rubber stamp? We have 3 items before us. Are all 3 a rubber stamp?
We're not doing them.
But were they? And are these all, I mean, we have option 1 we voted on. We have item 2 that is not moving forward right now because, well, we've had that discussion. But is item 3 just considered another rubber stamp for the board?
No,
Or
I
is-
asked them a question on that to bring
Right.
back a number.
Right, we have a lot of numbers before us. You know what I'm saying, you know what I'm asking,
Item
Gary?
3 is not a rubber stamp.
gonna
You
say
can
is-
decide to change that for non-represented employees.
Okay.
You'll cause a disparity, though, if you choose to do that, but it's totally your call. if you
Okay,
choose
cool.
to.
I just wanted to I know we have 3 specific items before us. They are
Elaborate, though,
somewhat
that
independent from one
It's not a
another.
rubber
Evelyn.
stamp. It's not a rubber stamp for the non-rep, but it is a rubber stamp for the represented employees because we have to negotiate that change.
Yeah,
That's
that
what I
makes-
want to
and-
make
and
that
thank you for
clarity.
clarifying that.
Okay.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
But it does present a huge equity issue.
Okay.
I understand. I just want to know what that is.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not saying that I don't want to be equitable. I want to know what I'm voting on.
Gotcha.
Okay, got it. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I think what's clear today is that there's interest in looking in deeper on this, and there's also interest in, I guess, really establishing, had this been timely, we'd have had intervention or opportunity for, I won't say intervention, but exploration at an earlier stage, had it been come to us earlier. So really, what I see is that we're all signaling that there's greater interest, and I'm sure we're all going to make the adjustments necessary. So it's like, similar things happen in the transportation world where suddenly you discover this funding stream and the criteria was established long ago and you're stuck with it, right?
Yeah.
And you realize, geez, I got to think ahead 3 years or 2 years before we can intervene to change that criteria. So it's figuring out how and when to open that door. And I think we've done that today a little bit. Say now we want to open the door. So
We want to open the door.
I appreciate the interest in it. So,
I do too.
but I guess I am a little bit struck, unfortunately, that it's so late, right? So that doesn't go unnoticed.
Gary, yeah, it doesn't go enough. So Gary, is there an opportunity to change the calendar? We want to change the calendar, possibly we want to change the BRC makeup. That is a huge policy discussion, vote on the board. Change the calendar so we know what's coming ahead of us. I remember when I was a commissioner the first time around. We had to have an emergency meeting and go ahead and approve these. This was like a long time ago, before Evelyn was here. Or they're going to expire in 2 days. So commissioners, at least we're not doing that. So there is some improvement on that, and it goes to budget management of the overall county. It goes to overall budget health of the overall county, and that's very important as we move forward. Just so we know, information is power, information is wonderful things to have, so. Is there anything else that you would like to say in your presentation today?
There is one thing I'd like to end with so that I make sure that we're clear. We're not, our hands aren't tied. There is, but there is a process that we have to go through to make the changes. The composition of the BRCs, that was negotiated in our collective bargaining agreements. And so, again, it's a part of our collective bargaining agreements, and we do have to go through the process to make those changes. And so we are in the process now of negotiating 6 of those contracts. It is too late to make those changes or those proposals. And so this is something we're going to have to, again, have a bigger policy discussion on. I just want to end by saying that.
Well, what if we just change the policy?
This is not, let me see, what is this?
You know, Evelyn, that's a rhetorical question. Please don't answer it
No,
today.
I'm talking to myself.
Yeah, Commissioner West.
I mean, I'm a little annoyed because I tried to engage in this messy process for a year. Got really placated and kind of like, meh, whatever, Commissioner West. And I kept, hey, where are my questions? Where are we at with this? In November, and here we are. The process is totally done. I'm caught like, as a policymaker and part of this governing body, completely like blindsided as if like it was just not taken seriously. And now they want me to just continue along the same process that I just experienced. And I think that the county will be less healthy because of it. I don't know what kind of medical professionals are engaged in these conversations when you have these ideas around preventative care. I don't know what presentations are made. I don't know if they have any idea when they say what a prior authorization is and what goes into a prior authorization and why that procedure is still denied for screening so that somebody can find out whether their coronary arteries are calcified in a CT calcium scoring. And we can stop the advancement of that early on if we're caring for them the right way, affordably. No, but we have a prior auth process. So not unless they already have advanced cardiovascular disease. I don't know if anybody explained that to the BRC and the people they're sitting next to. I see a lot of numbers here, but then I'm talking about the health of the individual. I'm talking about the human being's body and health, their mind, their spirit, their body, those things that make up a person, and making sure that is healthy. None of that conversation is happening. We're talking a lot about numbers, but somebody that maybe had a little insight, a new perspective, a new idea, something that would benefit everybody was just cast aside and wasn't seriously considered or was poorly communicated with, but I'm supposed to just rubber stamp this process. I'm totally out on that.
I do want to say, I want to apologize for your experience around this subject. I was unaware that this occurred until recently. And so, again, it's difficult to us to respond to questions about how you brought forth the information, how the information was shared with the BRC. And so I can't really address that because I had no knowledge of it or anyone at this table. And I can only speak to what we can do going forward. And as long as I'm here, you will not experience that type of interaction going forward.
I mean, I think you guys are probably unwinding a rat's nest that existed before, and you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I appreciate your work. And this is not, my ire is not directed at you, and I appreciate that, Evelyn, thank you. But it is what it is. Like, the process is what it is, and I'm not only uncomfortable with the process, I'm uncomfortable with our inability to treat the person as an individual that needs care and the way to help them from getting sick. We seem to be more interested in people getting sick and having expensive costs, and this is all wrapped up into that philosophy. And I am really, really disappointed in a phone call to say, hey, Commissioner West, could you explain what your process is professionally on the floor when you're dealing with these patients and why these suggestions are relevant to the county and all of us? You might know, Commissioner West, because you still do it, even though you serve on this board. And not even that effort was made. I've had to keep poking, where are we at with this? Where are we at with this? And here we are. And it just seemed to fall on deaf ears. And I know there's other opportunities to do better than just what I'm suggesting, with just my suggestions. This is just really it really makes me have a lack of confidence in how we are doing this overall. And in my first experience with this, I just am very skeptical and very curious now about these deficiencies that I've experienced very quickly in my tenure as a commissioner.
Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you all for being here. I think that you all work extremely hard in order to bring these issues before us in a way that's understandable. I think, colleagues, what I would say is we're also up against the monolith of the healthcare system. It's not just what we're doing here, trying to provide health. The whole healthcare system is this kind of barriered in many ways. I mean, I have been trying to get in to see a cardiologist with my insurance for 3 months. Maybe I'll get in next year.
Just have a heart attack, you'll get in.
Yeah, I know, that's what I mean. I'm like,
Please don't make me go to work in that capacity.
so
And that's
what
this
I just,
commissioner is trying to prevent.
yeah, well, I almost had one here one day, but it was just my blood pressure spiked. But anyway, so enough of my medical problems. But what I'm trying to say is it's the complexity of the overall healthcare system that is also impacting this. So we're just trying to understand as much as we can. I do think it's a good idea to have, and this is really the first time, though, I will tell you, Commissioner West, that we have had someone with your medical experience here. My parents were nurses, but I was not. So let's look at that as a positive in a way to move this forward and work with the BRC and have that policy discussion of, it's 30 years old, right, Gary? Okay?
Yeah.
Maybe
BRC is.
Yes, maybe it needs to be changed, but I'm going to caution you. Remember, we also are dealing with union representation. Okay, so that's another layer of complexity in the medical system itself, union representation. But we're all smart people, and we'll get through it. And I want to thank you for looking at those numbers as closely. That's what I like about you the best, actually. So anyway, but thank you, guys. And yeah, this was pretty interesting today, I have to say.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Before I go to Commissioner Scholl, Emily Klepper is going to be reaching out to you on my behalf
Okay?
to make sure that the information is presented how I think it should be presented. Okay? Because that's how we do stuff for all of us. Thank you. Commissioner Scholl.
Yeah, I just want to say that this conversation is about ready to give me a stroke, a heart attack, a skin rash, and a toothache. Just kidding.
Okay. Is that it, Gary?
That's it. We'll bring this back when staff's ready.
Thank you very much.
Super annoying.
Thank you for your willingness.
I'm going to the gym right
And
now.
are we done today?
That's all for today, Chair.
Seeing no further business before the commission, we are adjourned.
Okay.